All right, so we skipped over in the information section here the third link, apply for grants. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to give you a general overview of who can apply for grants. You all know 501c3 nonprofits and entity governments are eligible, as well as certain individuals for certain types of grants and public schools for certain types of grants. All that information is laid out for you here. A note about browsers. Please use a modern browser. We recommend that you either use Google Chrome or Apple Safari. If you use Internet Explorer, for example, please make sure you're using the most modern version. This system has been tested to work on the most modern versions of these particular browsers. It should, to our knowledge, work on any browser. However, there are oddities, and sometimes, if you're copying and pasting in a field in a browser is so outdated that the technology doesn't jibe with this new online grant system, it may crash your system or take you out, or you'll lose saved work. So just we recommend that you just take a moment to click on any of these links, and it will take you to simple downloads to update your browser to the most recent version. Our grants that we offer here are organized in 5 different broad categories: annual grants, individual artist fellowship, ABC grants, which you see are not open until April 1st, 2017 in this particular system. Rolling grants, 2 of the rolling grants, the Arts Access Mini Grant and the Arts Education Mini Grant, are available in this system. You will see applications for AAMG are open. Student ticket subsidies, which says it will open in August 2017. So for any grant that is open, or any grant in the system, I should say, these listings, these hyperlinks here, will take you to the corresponding guidelines page for that grant on our website. And if you're ready to start an application for any of these grant types, you're going to look for this green button that asks you to apply for whatever type of grant you're interested in. So I'm going to go ahead and click to apply for an annual grant. Again, like I mentioned at the top of the presentation, the system is smart enough to only ask you relevant questions to the type of application or type of program you're applying to. So we ask you a couple of very top-level basic questions right up front. What is the fiscal year? There's only one choice. What is the grant category? This is an important one, obviously. I'm going to choose Arts Project Support just because that's the one that I deal with the most. Is this your first time applying for funds? Yes or no? I'll say no. And what type of entity are you? I'm going to be a nonprofit organization today. As you see, it's already pre-populated the organization. That's the only organization that's associated with my user record. However, if I were associated with multiple organizations, I could just take that out, begin typing the name of whatever organization I'm connected with in the system, and then it will give me suggestions of which one it might be. Again, I'm only associated with one, so I only have one option here.
If you were associated with more than one, the one that you were first associated with in this system will be the one that generates anytime you click the apply for a grant button. But as Jared showed you, you can easily go in, change pick whichever organization you would like to apply for at this point in
time. Also, any users, don't worry about the location. The location is used for specialized applicants that we're probably not going to be utilizing at this point. Important, though, is to note the primary contact and the primary signatory. The primary contact is the user that's going to receive all of the email communications about your grant. We need something. Thanks. Here's some information you need to provide us. So it's important that this person, and this will list every single user that's associated with your organization, is the primary that you want to receive all those types of notifications. We're also going to have you electronically sign your contracts. So again, 100% paperless. We have an account through DocuSign. I'll just let you know that DocuSign is pretty clever in making you think that you might need to sign up for a DocuSign account in order to move forward. That's all their great marketing tactics. We have paid for DocuSign. You do not need to create an account in order to sign a document. You can just go in and take care of it with a couple of clicks. But the primary signatory is that person from your organization that is authorized to sign those documents. Now, perhaps your executive director could care less about creating an account in our online grant system. That's totally fine. They don't need to. Right over here, you'll see these links for Add New, and it'll create a little pop-up window here that'll let you give us information about who your primary signatory is. Just need to fill out the bolded information here and click Save. It will create the user so that they can receive contracts, etc., via their email. However, it does not assign them a login in the system. They're not actually technically a user in the system. It's just a way for you guys to be able to easily have contracts sent to whoever with your organization needs to sign those contracts. So after we've answered these very basic top-level questions about what type of application we're going to be filling out and what kind of entity we are, the system is going to ask you to save, and it's going to tell you, like I reminded you earlier, to please save your work frequently. If you leave the page, it may completely disappear. So I'm going to go ahead and do what it's asking me and save this application. Great. Grant was successfully updated, so we've been saved. Again, I have my edit button right here. I can get back into the system and easily update any information or continue working on it. But I'll just point out while we're here that the applications are also available right here under draft applications. So if you leave the office and you come back in and log in the next day and you're looking for whatever you're working on, click on the draft applications tab here, and you'll see all your grants that are currently being edited that have not been completed and submitted. Likewise, obviously, applications that have been submitted will be found under the Submitted Applications link, and then we'll talk about some of these other links a little bit later. But for now, let's go back into our draft application that we just started. I'm going to click on Edit to open it back up. And then I'm going to go through and just show you, okay, just in case you're curious, all these little carets can open and close sections of your application if you're wanting to, note that, oh, I'm done with that, I don't want to get confused by it. You can easily expand and contract those. By default, everything is expanded. You could ignore the save application now, that's just from earlier. But now that we've saved and the system knows what type of grant and what type of user we are, then it's able to ask us our relevant questions. Again, project title, funding description. I'll note that whenever you enter information into these text boxes, you'll see that you have characters left for this group. We have character limits for these text boxes. Once you've reached your capacity for the text box, it's going to turn bright red and let you know that you've gone too far. But thankfully, it won't just sort of cut off your text, so you're not, you don't have a long narrative that maybe you worked on in your word processor, pasted it in there, and just assumed it all went through. It'll just, like I say, tell you with the red character limits that you've gone too far. A note about that too: we ask you lots of narrative questions throughout the process. And although the system does have a spell check function down here, we don't really recommend that you use that. I mean, it will work, but it's not an ideal situation for the types of applications we offer. So you are encouraged to begin your applications, complete your applications using Microsoft Word or whatever application that you write them on, and then copy and paste them. The text boxes have rich text editors, so you're able to bold, italicize, underline. If you want a superscript or subscript for some crazy reason, you can absolutely do that. There's bullets. You can change headings. Please do not, type in your entire application using giant font, thinking you're going to, receive more funding or people is going to really jump out and impress the panelists. But that said, the formatting that you're doing in your word processing programs and copying and pasting into the system, it should keep the formatting 99% the same. Maybe the bullets look a little bit different here and there. We're not worried about that. We're just excited that everything's electronic, and the panelists are going to be reviewing them all on the screen, so you don't need to spend, an enormous amount of time making everything formatted exactly beautifully perfect. So again, we're asking you regular questions that you're used to seeing: your project start and end dates, individuals, are you a media organization, how many artists. These questions are going to be different if you're an MCI. We're going to ask you, or any other entity other than the Arts Project Support, the same relevant questions to your particular application. The percentages, the system is smart enough that you can't enter letters into a number field, although I guess you can technically enter that you're 10,000% under 18. So just watch for that. Your project accessibility statement, our NEA required questions here about your discipline. We've pared this down to only the ones related to arts organizations, so please make sure you answer that. Your strategic outcome and what percentage, if any, of your project involves arts education. That's important. And then after we've answered those questions, then we get down to the narrative information. And as you see, the same system here with the text editor, and then you have a larger number of characters. We have mirrored our applications from years past, so you should have the same amount of space that you had to answer these questions back in the old eGrant PDF days as you do now. Just the difference, of course, is this is 100% online, and this will count down how much you have left. Who's responsible? Again, same exact narrative questions that you're used to answering. Here's a change. Huge change. No, not really, but we historically had asked you for a 4-year budget history, budget cash operating history for your organization. This year we have pared it down to only 3 years, so we're only asking you to give us information for your most completed fiscal year, most recently completed fiscal year, the current fiscal year, which we understand is a projection of where you're going to end up at the end of the fiscal year, and then the projected fiscal year, which of course is the fiscal year for which you are asking for Arts Commission funds. We're also, as always, asking you if there's a variation of more than 10% or more between the last completed and the current. You let us know, or the current and the most last, that you explain the difference, excuse me. And then likewise, if there was a deficit, please let us know why there was a deficit and what you plan on doing to make sure that doesn't happen again. Also, something that we have gotten rid of is the single-page financial statement, which I think a lot of you were pleased to learn that we no longer require. That was a section that had to sort of exactly mirror this particular 3, or last year it was actually 4-year budget history. So that's no longer necessary. So moving down, and again, I know I'm moving through this pretty fast. We've done about 4 of these already this week, so if I'm skipping over things that are confusing, please just throw up a hand, and I'm happy to clarify anything. Here is something that is of importance. Historically, the Arts Commission has asked people seeking project grants to only give us the financial information for the money you're requesting from the Arts Commission and your dollar-for-dollar match. We are now asking our applicants to give us your entire project budget in these budget forms. Okay, so we want to know where you want our money, and we want to know the value of your entire project, because obviously you guys are spending much more than just the dollar-for-dollar match for the Arts Commission funds. So that's a huge change, and I really wanted to highlight that. This annual grant application in the system is used for MCIs, partnership support, APS, all of our different grant types, with a single budget table. So since each one of those grant types requires different information, we have right here at the top pretty simple instructions on how to fill out. So I'm filling out an Arts Project Support Grant. I'm reading my entire budget, not just the dollar for dollar matches here. It should be itemized in the right-hand column up to the request amount, and I may use up to 2 line items. So I'm just going to sort of go forward with that, but if obviously other types of applications have slightly different rules or slightly different matches, so that's why we need you to really pay attention to that. This one's an easy one to miss. At the bottom of the instructions is an important one. How much are you requesting from us? So I'm just going to fill in that I'm requesting a maximum of $9,000 for my Arts Project Support application here, and then you'll see the table, which is very familiar to you, the same exact categories that you're used to seeing. You have the applicant cash participation over here, and then the commission funds requested column over here. So, not only do we want to put in where we want our Arts Commission funds, but we're going to just also, in this column, make sure that we are at least obviously matching the commission funds requested, but then also just giving details on, what we're going to be spending in all of these particular categories for this particular project. This form will total up for you here at the bottom to let you know, just to keep you on track. We used to have, you're used to seeing another field here with a description of the line item. We still need that description, but frankly, the form wasn't wide enough for us to put it here. So we've put it down here in an explanations text box, and we're asking you in the text box below, enter an explanation for expenses in any of those line items, either our funds or your funds. And we don't have a recommendation as to the formatting for this particular section. We just ask you to be brief and to essentially say line 1A, fees for guest clinician, line 2B, brochure printing, whatever those lines mirror. Give us in the explanations text box here what they are. Just a note about some redundancies you may perceive in the system. This calculation here is built into the form, just like Microsoft Excel may give you a running tally of what's been totaled. This is not a text box that will get into the system, so we have to ask you to manually input some of these figures, and when we do, we're pretty good about holding your hands throughout the process. So for example, this will be what I would consider a redundant text box here. Verify the total project cash expenses. It says enter your total project cash expenses. It should equal the sum of the cash participation and the funds requested in line 10. So you're going to go up here and you're going to add up those two numbers as instructed. And then that way in our system, when we're reviewing it on our end, we know that your total project is totaled up to that. The exact same scenario here on your project income. We want to know the income that you're expecting for all of these particular line items, not just a dollar for dollar match for your funds requested and your cash match. So we want to know, let's see, I think that should get us to where we want to be. Great. Again, we're totaling up here, and we're going to put in explanations for any of those particular fields that you put a dollar amount in. And then we're going to ask you to do some more math. So verify the total cash income. It should equal line 22. So line 22 up here, $30,000. And put that in. And it says, verify the $30,000 amount requested will pre-populate after, okay, so that's confusing. So what does that mean? Basically what that means is when you entered the amount of your grant request up here, the system cannot magically put it down here. We're asking you in this column to give us what is this amount, your total cash income, plus the amount of money you're asking for the Arts Commission in this particular text box. So if you actually ended up saving it for some reason, and I know this is probably irrelevant because I'm sure that whenever you're going out to fill the budget section out of your application, you're probably not going to save out in the middle of it. But just to show you one more time the save and edit function, because I have not been very diligent about saving as I go, like I've exhorted you all to do. And you come back down to where we were. Now it makes a little bit more sense. So $30,000 here plus the amount requested of $9,000 equals the total projected income here of $39,000. Again, just many of you know this, but the amount of money you're requesting from the Arts Commission does not go up here in your projected project income. This is other income other than our particular support. In-kind contributions, again, you're used to seeing this. We have a handy link here that will open up a website that will help you calculate the value of your volunteer hours, which are incredibly important for our organizations, of course. So you're going to input how much money your in-kind contributions are going to total. You're going to give us a summary. Again, you're used to doing that. And then we're going to require certain kind of documents for whatever particular application you are working on. And when the documents are required, and we have a type of document that is required, you'll note that the type of document has a corresponding blue plus sign. Meaning, whenever you click the corresponding plus sign, now you are directly dealing with the proof of arts advocacy file. So whenever you go through your system and grab whatever file that is relevant to the proof of arts advocacy, you're going to upload it, and you're going to note that you don't have a choice in the drop down. It's going to mark itself as a proof of arts advocacy. And then once that's done, this will disappear, hopefully, and now you'll see it's done, and then here we go. We have a proof of arts advocacy here. The system will, to our knowledge, accept almost any file type, especially any widely used file types such as a PDF or a Word document. So, don't upload 40 gigabyte video files or anything like that. That's probably not a good idea, but just give us what we're asking for here. Just a note that's been asked a couple times over these workshops about your proof of arts advocacy. You all are used to sending us information, supplemental information about your organization, that if you remember, you'd come to the panel and we'd have little manila envelopes and we'd pass them down so everybody would sort of look at your brochures. And we are still asking you to provide that, and you still can sort of put your best foot forward there. This is where you're going to upload that information in this document section. But as far as the proof of arts advocacy, this is an audit requirement. We are asking you in your application to prove to us that you have done something to advocate on behalf of the arts. So we don't need you to send a copy of every single letter you've sent to every legislator over the last year. Just send us one proof of advocacy. A good way to do that is maybe Tennesseans for the Arts, and that's probably our most widely submitted proof of arts advocacy. I know they'd appreciate the plug, so that's one way to take care of that. Yes, sir. So I'm just going to repeat the question just in case those streaming it didn't hear it. The question was if you want to upload multiple documents, say highlighting your advocacy efforts or showcasing a project, should you combine those files into one document and then upload that one document into the system? You're certainly welcome to do that, and I do think that's a good idea. But you don't have to. What you can do is, in that case, these are the supplemental materials. Like I say, we're only asking you to tick the box here just to make sure we have that one. But if you have other things that you want us to consider, you're able to just go in here and click the upload button on the documents, add a file, grab whatever file is relevant to what you're doing, and then if you click this drop down here, you'll see these are file types across all of our annual grant themes. Some of them may be irrelevant to your particular grant, but if you look down here, you can select another proof of arts advocacy, or you can just simply select this as an optional material. All of this will be available for the panelists, and they'll have access to it and be able to see what it is. So I suggest that maybe you give the file name something that's relevant, so that they know what they're looking at, and just choose whatever file type is corresponding to the document. So that's a great question. We also have a text box here for optional material links. Some of you may have like a YouTube video that may really highlight your project, or showcase an artist that you're asking for funds to bring into your community. This is where this optional material links text box is useful, so that you can just type in a URL and show off that way. I mentioned earlier, please don't upload a gigantic, humongous video file. Simply put the link to the video file here. A note about that: we have not, like I said, have not drastically altered our applications this year. We wanted to make it, we wanted to have a certain level of consistency. And we also have not updated our evaluation metrics. So while this is a useful tool for some of you to upload optional links, keep in mind that there's no direct corresponding evaluation criteria for it. So a simple way to say this is, don't put all your eggs in this particular basket. It's there for the panelists. Frankly, this is mostly used for our individual artist fellowships, because there is a requirement for them to show us samples of their work. But it is available for all grantees if there's something that you think would be useful for that. But I just caution you that it may not even be viewed, because, like I say, it doesn't necessarily correspond to a requirement in the grant application. But certainly, please make use of that. That may change in the future. We may make this a larger part of the application. But like I say, it's there for your use. After that, you'll see all of these documents that you had uploaded back when we were in our organization card here, our bylaws. We're going to keep scrolling down the application, and then we're going to see a read-only verification of what's in our organization information. This is putting it in front of you, so that while you're working on the end of your application here, you're verifying that all this stuff is still accurate. And if not, you need to change something, or you left out something important, the procedure is save out of it, go back over to your menu under the organizations card, go back into edit that, change it. Once you've changed and saved it and come back into this application, this will be updated with that new information. So, but we wanted to put it in front of you just so you didn't neglect to verify that everything was correct with regard to your organization. Again, the same with your contact information. And then, just like you're always used to doing, you're going to need to put down your name and title of the CEO, certifying that everything is correct here and accurate. Again, the same with the project and program director, certifying it. And that's the last question on this particular application. So I'm going to save out, and then I'm going to show you how to submit an application. Yes, ma'am. Oh.
I noted that you had a document raised for the bylaws in there. You said that if we submit our organizational bylaws, we shouldn't have to upload those to we have to upload bylaws to every document, every application?
You do not. That section that I was showing you, so the question was, do you have to upload documents even though you've uploaded them into your organizational record? Do you have to upload them again in the application? And I just wanted to show you really quickly that no, what you are seeing there under the documents. Right. So what you're seeing here is organization documents, right? So I haven't uploaded anything. Like, we've been going through this application blank. So all of these things were already included in our card. I'm just showing you again, and then this is another place where you could upload. I'll also just show you, because I failed to mention it, any of these uploads, you can preview the document by clicking the hourglass. You can edit the document, which essentially lets you change what kind of document type if you made an error in that. Or if you grab the wrong file, you can easily just click this little plus sign next to it and completely delete the file from the record. So, good question. And you had a question, yes, ma'am.
Yes, I saw when you were scrolling down, one of the two signatures required, you said CEO, but in parentheses it says chair or president of the board. Which would y'all prefer?
Sorry, I mean I misspoke. It's not CEO. It's the chief authorization officer, whoever is authorized to sign off on this particular grant application.
Okay, so that would be the same person that earlier when you did the kind of they don't get their own official account unless they truly want one.
That's right. This isn't going to generate anything to be sent to anyone.
Okay. Do y'all have a preference? Would you like it to be the president of the board or the CEO?
It is who is authorized by your organization to sign.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I am pretty sure that the organization I'm representing is not going to have its FY16 audit ready by the deadline. And how do we convey that information, ask for an extended period of time or whatever?
I'm going to defer that one to Hal. I'm sure, like all of you understand, we are flexible and we like to work with you with these extenuating circumstances, and we understand that life happens. So the system is not at this time even requiring that to be submitted. So if there was for some reason, and I cannot think of an example of why you would not have a certain required document type available to you at the time, so that you could not move your application from your edit mode into submitted mode. I can't think of that, but if it happens, obviously you can just give us a call and we'll figure out a workaround.
There are, Bennett, that's a good question. For operating support grants, one of the required documents, if you are a nonprofit, or is rather not if you're nonprofit, but rather if you're an operating support grantee, is an audit. So it is required before you can move forward. If you do not have the current or the correct year, you need to upload your most recently completed fiscal year, and then you will be contacted by the program director and we'll set up whatever arrangement needs to happen. We encourage as many people to upload their document or have as much of their current or appropriate documentation as possible. Yes, I see a hand in the back.
But if you apply before January, if you get your application in December, though, you don't have to have your FY16 audit, right?
Correct. If you are on a fiscal,
Calendar year fiscal year.
The audit needs to be for the most completed fiscal year at the time of your application.
All right. Any other questions about the online grant system so far before we get into the submit function here? Okay, so we've filled out our application and now we're ready to submit. I'm going to caution you not to click the withdrawal button at this point. That may lead to serious migraines on your part, but instead to click the submit button. Now the system, when I click the submit button, is going to check all of those different fields to make sure that we've inputted information in everything that's required. And as you've seen throughout this process, I have entered information in virtually none of those text boxes. So my warning, compliance warning here that you're going to see is going to look a little wicked. Yours hopefully will not quite look like this. Mine actually is going to run off the bottom of the screen with so many different warnings. So it says, warning, unable to promote. These error messages were found. Project title can't be blank. This can't be blank. That can't be blank. So it's hopefully yours is maybe you've missed one or two sneaky fields and will only give you the relevant information. But I'll also point out this, and this is a little bit of an oddity. You'll see right here at the top, if you receive a generic compliance warning and cannot identify missing information, in other words, it just says unable to promote, and it doesn't say project title is missing. It just says unable to promote. Check your required documents. The system is kind of funky in so much that it can't tell you you're missing proof of arts advocacy. So if it's a generic warning, the first place before you call us, and of course you're welcome to call us and we'll help you track it down too, but the first place you might want to check is the required documents. So after it's giving me this compliance warning, you've missed a field, I'm going to go down and find which one I'm missing, and you'll see all the missing information fields here are now they're now highlighted in red. So you should be able to really quickly kind of go down and say, oh, whoops, that's the one I missed. So once we've done that, filled in any particular missing information, we're going to click the submit button. The application is going to come to the Arts Commission. It's going to be assigned to a program director, just like always. And the program directors are going to review them for completeness and accuracy. And as you're used to seeing in the past, we've sent you one sheet of paper with a bunch of check marks. You forgot to do this or you forgot to do that. Make 100 copies of them and overnight it to us. And we'll try to move your application forward. Hopefully, we won't be seeing that as much because you're not even able to submit the application now unless you've given us something in those fields that are required. But if there's something we need clarification on, or we do need to communicate with you that your application needs to change before it can go forward, we're going to send you an update via email through the system that says, hey, got your application. Now we have some changes that we're requesting from you. And we're going to make the emails intuitive enough that it's going to tell you where in the system once you log in to go look. So if you are missing some information, we're going to tell you, well, you have some changes requested. Check your applications tab and check your changes requested folder. So I'm going to click on this and pretend like I've had a grant sent back. So you'll see this grant status is sent back. Where it says 22 right here, I just went through and just hit the 2 button just because I had to have a complete application in order to move this for the purposes of the demonstration. But this will actually show you the project title, so it'll be easy to to keep track of which ones we're working with here, because I know some of you might have multiple grants ongoing with your organization. So I've sent this back, and I want to know why I've been sent this back. Well, right here, under the first section, you're going to see additional information requested. To the grantee, please respond to the additional request for clarification as noted below. Please explain the variation of more than 10% in your cash operating budget from fiscal year 16 to 17. So that's where we're going to put all the reasons we've sent your grant back. So that's the one reason. So, okay, if you'll see, you have your entire application right here. I can just go back into the edit mode and go back in, find that area that I had neglected to put in the variation. And it's not going to highlight it in red. This is just opening up my entire application again. And then I'll be able to fill in that information, save out of it. And then when it finally saves the entire information, then I'll be able to resubmit the application. Now, just a general note about this. The system will open up the entire application whenever you've gotten a request to send an update. We have an audit trail on all of these applications, and our guidelines prohibit us from moving an application forward if something beyond what we have requested you changes. So this isn't the opportunity for you to go in and say, oh, I really could have made a stronger case in that narrative here, or let's just change this financial information here. That stuff is very apparent to the program director, and I just want to give a warning that could jeopardize your application's ability to move forward. So please just stick to what we're asking you to change. Change it, resubmit the grant. These little notes, every step of the way, whenever you're moving your application up the chain, you're going to get these little notes. You can send us a little happy note if you want to, but you don't need to bother with that at all.
Also, I'll point out that when you do submit your grant, Jared may have mentioned this, when we send you back a grant, if there is a need to send it back, you'll receive an email and it'll tell you exactly what's going on. Every time you resubmit the grant, if we've sent it back to you, you'll receive the email saying, we've got it. So that gives you peace of mind.
So at this point, your grant will, as it's always done, go to a panel We're still this year going to convene panels down the street in the office. We're not sure if all the panelists are going to be wearing virtual reality goggles and scrolling through the air with their hands, or if we're going to, more likely print hard copies for old time's sake of everybody's application so they can thumb through them and make notes. But at any rate, we're still going to hold the panel meetings down the street. We're still going to offer the call-in option, which was really popular last year. And they're still going to be paneled in that way. Then you're going to be sent your award notification. Congratulations, we're recommending you receive this amount of funding, and we're going to require a revised budget. So I'm just going to show you a little bit about how the grants management works. We don't have all of the forms available to show you right now, but just to reiterate, this is going to be a 100% paperless process. So the first thing you're going to be needing to send back to us is a revised budget. As Hal mentioned, we'll send you an email very explicitly saying, go into your portal and check your grants management tab and look and see if there's a reports due. So I'm going to click here, like the email has instructed me to do, and I'll see there's a revised budget here for this particular application. Now on the revised budget, unlike the application budget where we want you to show us your entire project budget, the revised budget, just like old time's sakes, is simply a amount of your recommended funding and a dollar for dollar match. So you'll see here's your revised budget. It says your amount recommended was $7,200. So we'll go into the form. It'll open it up. We're going to tell it when we're going to submit it. Fill out the exact dollar for dollar funds requested and applicant cash match in the relevant categories. Save. Submit. It's going to give you a compliance warning if there's something missing, although I don't know if there's necessarily a compliance warning set up on this particular application, but it's been submitted. If we have a problem, you put too much money, too little money, you're asking for a different category than you mentioned in your application, we might send it back, and it's the same as here under our application with changes requested. Your grants management tab for these kind of files will also have a link here for changes requested. And with that, that's the end of the formal demonstration of the online system. And I know it's a lot of information, but hopefully this process will be simpler and easier. I will mention that we as a staff are learning the system as well. It's been a long 6 months of putting all these millions of pieces together, and we are relieved that we are now online and up and running,